Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, and today we are going to be working on something that is long overdue, and that is the apartment building in the back there. So a few months ago, we started working on it, and I think it turned out okay, but I stopped working on it because of a few parts limitations, and also we were in the process of redesigning the city, so then that got put on the back burner. But now I think it's finally time that we return to that. And it's actually not even going to stay there. So I'm going to pull the entire chunk out of the city, and I'm going to bring it over to the expansion table right here just to give you guys an up close and personal look at it. And then I'm going to show you guys where we're going to move it to, and also some of the design features that we're going to be adding to it. So this is the apartment building as it currently stands. And while there are a lot of things that I like about it, there are some things that I want to change. I'm going to start with the stuff that I like. And the first is the dark tan as the main color. I think that's a really, really good choice, and I think that's going to look really good, especially once it gets to be pretty tall as well. I want it to be maybe 5 floors. I want also, for those of you that haven't seen that other video, I'll put it in the top right for you, but also just to give you guys a little bit of a gist, my initial plan was to have one section of it here, and then a road going through the middle, and then having a almost identical building on the other side of the street, and then connecting it either with a sign or like a pedway bridge, something like that. And so with that, I do really like that idea, and I still want to roll with it, but that is going to have to be pretty tall. So it's going to be at least, one of them is like 5 floors, the other maybe 4, or maybe they're both 5. I'm not totally sure yet, but another thing that I like is the arches. I really, really like the arches idea. That is something that I want to carry over into this new rendition of it. I also like the dark gray windows. I would like to stagger them, but the 1x2x2 version of this window, or the 1x2x2 window in dark bluish gray, is absurdly expensive because the only set it came in a decent quantity is in the Eiffel Tower. So that is not ideal for what I'm trying to do here because I need a lot of them. So I need to figure that out. But for the time being, we're going to go without them, and then hopefully I can either find some for a decent price or I can just bypass them entirely. I hope it's the latter. I hope I don't have to go and buy a bunch of those because they're not exactly cheap. I think the cheapest I found them for was about 40 cents a piece, which is ridiculous. That's $8 for every floor if I were to use one for every single column here. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to do that. So we're going to try and avoid using that if we can. Some of the stuff that I want to change, though, is mainly the ground floor here. I like the arches, but I feel like it needs more depth to it. So we're going to be adding some other pillars up in the front here. I don't know what those are going to look like, but I have a couple vague ideas of what I want to go on here. And then I do like these curved slopes, but they're probably going to have to go, unfortunately. So with that being said, I am going to take this apart, and then I'm going to show you guys where the new spot is right now. Okay, so this is where the apartment building used to be just a few moments ago, and then this right around here, this general area, is where it used to be in the old layout, but now I'm actually thinking of putting it here. So then one half of the building is going to be on this base plate right here, and then it's going to, on the other side of the street, the other half is going to be on this base plate right here. You can just ignore that. So this base plate right here is going to be one half, or I guess one whole building of the apartment building, and then this base plate right here is going to be another one. I have a full 48 studs on this side, so I'm either going to make it 32 or 48. I haven't fully decided yet. This is definitely just going to be a 32 by 32 square, and then this one is either going to be 32 by 32 or 32 by 48. Haven't decided on that yet, and actually, since I haven't decided on that, I might go ahead and just make this one first, just to make my life a little bit easier, and also I only have to worry about one facade, and then this wall can be plain, this is going to be the back, and then this one doesn't really matter. So I might throw a couple windows on this just because there's nothing else here, but it doesn't need to be anything fancy, so not super worried about that. So I think we're going to take this one base plate, and we're going to work on this, and then eventually, either once we finish that first one or I start alternating it, I guess it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to go ahead and then start working on this one at a later point. So for the purpose of this video, we're just going to use this one base plate here. Okay, so I have been kind of hitting a roadblock with this, to be honest with you. I've been trying a couple different things, and I came up with this, which I actually do quite like, which is essentially just these snot bricks, and then you put a tile on the front, and then you add the modified plate in between, and that is pretty much that. These 1x3 jumpers are in black, simply because I don't have any in dark gray, but that will change in the near future. I just want to get the idea down, and then I can start to figure out what kind of pieces I need. And so this is pretty much all I've got so far. The only problem with this is that these arches here wouldn't fit in this gap between the two. So I was thinking you have window here, a window here, and then an entrance here. And then that would pretty much be that there. And so this is kind of what I'm thinking, but these arches are way too large. So in order to actually fit the arches in here, then I would need to shrink the doorway down by quite a bit. And then, so as you can see, the arches would come to there, and then you would need a pillar on either side. So even if the pillar, I'm trying to do this all with one hand, but basically, if the pillar was here, and then we had another pillar here, that would not leave that much room for this in the middle. I guess it could work, but then in order to make it like this, then I would have to shrink this even further, and then put this, it would have to be here. So it's, because the end is 3 studs wide, then that would also be 3 studs wide on each side, which would bring it to here. So then it would alternate kind of like that, pretty much like how that pattern is there. And then I would only have a 4 stud wide area for the door. I don't love that. I really wish I had a little bit more space to make this work, or I had smaller arches. I also checked to see if they made the 1x8 arches in dark tan, and they do not. So Lego's never produced a dark tan arch in the 1x8 size, so that is fantastic. So I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I'm going to try a couple of other things here, because I like this design, but I don't know if it's going to work for me. I don't know if the door is going to work here. So I think I'm just going to start over, and we're going to try again. Okay, so I have made a mess on this little table here, but what I've done is actually, I'm pretty happy with what I've come up with so far. So let me break it down and tell you guys exactly what my thought process on this is. So basically, I had talked about earlier about these arches being too large, but I went with it anyways, and I was like, you know what, I'll figure it out as I go, because they don't make these dark tan arches in 1x8s, or I didn't check 1x6s, but that would have been too small, I think. So figured I would go with this and then just try and figure it out. And then this is the column design, pretty much finished. So it's pretty basic, but it works. And then that is pretty much the side wall here, which is plain, but this is going to be up against the train track, so it doesn't really matter. Maybe one day I could go back and add masonry bricks or graffiti or something like that. So that is that pretty much. But this right here is actually what I wanted to show you guys. So as you can see, I put a little Mills plate in there for the floor. And then what I can do is go in with these windows here, and then pretty much just go like that. And then that is going to be pretty much that. I was thinking doing 4 windows tall, but now that I'm actually looking at it, I see that 3 would be a little bit better. So that is pretty much that. And then that's what it's going to look like. And then I could just add a little bit of gray on the top, or maybe I could add a little bit on the bottom to kind of help space it out a little bit. But that is pretty much that. And I think this is looking really, really good. And so the red and all that stuff is going to get covered up here. I'm going to put like a planter or something, I think, here. And then hopefully that'll add a little bit of color as well, because at the moment this is looking pretty monochrome. But I don't think it's bad. I think this is looking pretty good. And then as for the arch here, as you can see in the middle, it's mostly just the same with these 2 pillars. However, the middle section of the pillar is a little bit different. So instead of using the 2 wide snot brick, I'm using the 1 wide. And then I'm going to put an arch in the pillar itself. And so I'm going to use light gray for that. And then all of these dark gray rail pieces, I just can't find in light gray. I know I have them somewhere. I just need to check the bin and then kind of go from there. But this is what we're working with for the time being. And so I'm just going to leave the dark gray because it gets the job done. And also I just need the spacing right. So I'm going to go in and then add the light gray arch. And then this top section here is probably also going to be light gray. And then I might add like a little bit of detail in there. I don't know what exactly is going to go here. Maybe like the street number, like the building number for the street. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet, but I like this idea. And I think this is actually turning out pretty good. So let me continue Mills plating on the inside of the building here. And then we can go ahead and we can start to work on this because I want to have a couple steps up as well. So hopefully the arch is at the right height. If it's not, I don't know what I'm going to do because I need this rail plate here. I can't really, I could put the arch up here, but then I think it'd be too tall. So I don't really know what I'm going to do about that, but I guess we'll try it and hopefully it all works out. All right, so a lot has happened since that last clip. I've been getting kind of carried away as I've been building this and then just getting really into it and then forgetting to film stuff. So this update's gonna be a little bit bigger between these last couple clips here. And so what you'll notice is that I put all the windows in. So the whole facade is nearly done actually. And so I also put the arch in here. It is offset by a half a stud and it's actually not even connected on the bottom. It's only connected on the top. So if I pull this out here, you can actually start to see how it's connected here. So there's a couple 1x3 jumpers on top, and then that is pretty much it. And then I wanted to use this 1x8 rail piece up here, but it's 9 studs across. So I had to use the 1x2s and then put the jumper in the middle to kind of continue the line. And then that just kind of slides in here and then it connects on either side. And on each of the sides here, I put a D-snot piece. Let me see if I can take this tile off. I put a D-snot piece with a 1x2 tile on the front to help kind of make the arch a little bit more, better of a transition. And then that is pretty much that. I still don't know what to do up here, but I have the space to make it work now. And I can go in and add a couple more of these snot bricks here. So then I can actually just put tiles on it or something like that. So I think that is looking pretty good. And then on the left here, the pillar's the same as the one on the right. And then I added a couple planters out front. And so I decided to use dark green masonry bricks just for fun because I have them. I tried sand blue, but I didn't think it looked as good as the dark green. So I went with that. And I also added a little bit of brown in there. And then I can go in and add some foliage. So that's good. The front door is now in as well, and there's a little bit of a step up, which I like. I might end up lowering the 1x4 tile by 1 plate, so then it's an even, you're at sidewalk height, and then 1 plate up, and then 1 plate up, and you're at the door. But then on the back here, what you'll see is the interior is fully Mills plated now, so that's good, and I built up most of this wall here, and then I think we're gonna have a back door over here. Not that it really matters where it is, but I think I want to have one. So that's everything that I've been up to. And you can actually see the little bit of the construction in there and how the jumper sticks out. And then so this will be a pretty easy fix of just swapping that around. But I'm very happy with this. I'm much, much happier with this. This was okay. And the part of the reason why we didn't come back to it so soon was because I was trying to figure out how to make it work with all of the different floors without it just looking the same. But with this, I'm so much happier with it. I think this looks so much better. And let me know if you guys agree. Drop a comment down below to let me know what you think. And also make sure to click subscribe as well as turn on the bell notification if you haven't done so already, because we're going to be making a bunch more buildings just like this. Not only the other half of this apartment building, but there are so many open base plates to fill in the city that we need to work on. And so this is just the start of many projects to come. And so with all of that being said, I know this clip was kind of long and also there's a lot of content to go over. With all that being said, I'm going to go ahead, finish out the back, and then we can tile out the first floor here on the top, and then we can start to build up the second floor. I'm not going to do the interior today because, like I've talked about previously, I want to get the exterior done first, and then I'll go back and work on the interior because interiors are extremely expensive. All of the pieces that I've put into the exterior so far, if I had to buy it all right now, that would cost the same amount as buying all of the pieces for an interior. And so it's not cheap, and I would rather get the stuff done first that you guys would actually see when I show content of the city. And so with that being said, I'm going to start with the exterior and then we'll come back, and then at a later date we'll do all the interiors. So let me get to work on this and I will be right back. All right, so I went ahead and I finished up the walls, and I also went in and I added some details on them as well, including windows and also some of the 1x2 rounded plates in there as well, just to give it a little bit of texture. And then I also added a couple masonry bricks, and then the snot bricks mostly are just going to be for vines, but I added some under the windows in case I want to add like a little planter or something like that. So that is pretty good. These don't look centered, but they are actually centered on the base plate. It's just the door is kind of throwing it off. But I don't know if that's just me, but I also textured this side here because this is going to be the one up against the train tracks. That one is going to be up against another building, so it doesn't really matter. And it looks like we lost the lamppost, but this looks pretty good. I am pretty happy with this. The thing that I'm struggling with now is the rail on the top. Originally, I was just going to have a 1x2 rail up here and then call it a day, but since this in the middle here is 9 studs wide, I can't just use the 8 wide because it wouldn't be long enough, and I can't just add a 2 because then it would be 10 long and it would be too long for this section. So I had to kind of come up with a couple different ideas, and the only real solution that I came up with was to add these 1x8s in, and then that also allows me, since I put them on jumpers, that also allows me to connect the pillars back to the building itself. So I like that, but I don't necessarily love the plate coming across here. But let me know what you guys think of that. Let me know if that's something that you want me to keep, or if you would rather see me try something else. I think I'm going to leave it like this for the time being, just to move on. I'm not going to have enough pieces to finish the second floor, but we're definitely going to start it in today's video because I want to get at least a template or part of a template that we can use, and then we can essentially just make copies from there and then make the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th floor and so on. Okay, so I went ahead and I started the second floor here. As you can see, the only thing is that I'm just realizing now that I did not add the elevator back in. That was something that I had in the original design that I just completely forgot about when I was designing this. So we are going to have to do that. I'm probably not going to go back and do it today. I don't know if I want to have it on the back or if I'm just going to put it on the side and then kind of jut it out into the building itself. That seems like an easier alternative as opposed to rebuilding this entire thing and then also moving the windows, because I like where they're at right now. So that is kind of what I'm thinking. I think we're just going to put it on the inside and then kind of call it a day. So that is that. I figured I should address that before I forget, and then the video ends and then I get a bunch of comments saying that I forgot to add it. So I did remember, very late, but I did remember. So I am now going to take the floor off the top here, and then we're going to go ahead and we are going to start the second floor. I don't know if I want to put plate here and then kind of start here, or if I want to put all of the bricks and stuff in line with the dark tan, and then I just keep this open for pillars and stuff like that. So I don't really know what to do with that, but I guess we'll figure that out as we go. So I'm going to try and get as far as I can here, and then whenever I run out of pieces, because that's all the dark tan that I have left. I have a handful 1x4s, maybe like a dozen or two 1x2s sitting in front of me, and then that. So once that runs out, then I am pretty much done for whatever I can do here. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and try and get it as far as I can here. So let me try to get a decent design template going, and then we can work from there. All right, so I've gotten just about as far as I can get with this second floor here. I am completely out of dark tan pieces. As you can see, I have a couple of snot bricks and things, but these won't really get me very far. I want to use regular bricks, and I also need 1x3s for this area right here, which I don't have any of. So that is pretty much that. I actually got a lot farther than I was expecting to, which is good. And so the only thing left to do before I want to wrap up the video is I actually want to figure out how to add in the columns on the front here. Still trying to figure that out, but I have a couple of ideas that I want to try out really quick. So I think we're going to do that, and then we're going to see how that looks, and then we will take it from there. And we can also place it in the city to see how it's going to look in its future home. Okay, so despite the fact that I am extremely limited on pieces right now, especially for these columns here, I did figure out a design that I think is going to work. And so basically what it is essentially just a Technic brick in there, and then I use this brick with the pin on it, and then that just connects in, and then that's pretty much that. I also tried using a regular snot brick to connect in there, and that has a lot more friction, and so I think that would work better. But I don't have a 1x2 version of this with just the one stud on it. I know they make it, but I don't have any in my collection. So that is something that I have to buy, or if I want to just not buy pieces, then I could just use this. And then I would probably need a second point of connection at some point higher up to ensure that it doesn't rotate, because at the moment it does kind of wiggle a little bit. So that's unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. And plus, I seem to have a bunch of these in my collection anyways, so that seems to work out decently well. And so with that being said, we are going to add the couple of pieces that I can still add, and then we're going to go ahead and place this in the city and see how it looks. All right, so I went in and I added the bottoms of each of the 4 columns for the second floor, and I think that's starting to shape up really nicely. Again, I ran out of the dark gray or the light gray rail pieces, so I'm just replacing them with dark gray for the time being, just so I can get the spacing right. And I think it's still looking really good regardless, and I think this is starting to shape up really, really nicely. One other change that I did make was I added some 1x4 plates under these tiles here, just so that that is all at the same height now. I think that looks a little bit better, I think. But yeah, that is pretty much that there. I could also, if I just take this out really quick, I could replace this 1x2 plate here with a 1x3 jumper, and then that way this would just continue all the way through instead of having the half stud gap in there. So that is something I could do as well. But that's going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like it and subscribe, as well as click the bell notification so you don't miss any future uploads, like continuing this apartment building and also starting the other one that's going to go right here. If you guys have any feedback for me on this building, make sure to drop a comment down below to let me know what you think. And seriously, once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.